All right, enough! Stop! Get off! No. He came to my house to beat a little, helpless dog to death.
Nobody is coming to save him. No teacher, no parent, no friend. And by the time this story is over, the quiet kid everyone ignored will have done things nobody saw coming. This is what happens when someone finally stops walking away. The alarm goes off and gets completely ignored. So Runt, the scruffy little dog who has apparently appointed himself the household's only functioning alarm system, takes matters into his own paws and drags his owner out of sleep the way only dogs can, with zero grace and zero apology. The boy's name is Cal, and his mornings are not glamorous. He goes through a careful routine of grinding up medication and mixing it into Runt's food bowl. The dog sniffs it once, declines. Cal leaves the bowl, grabs his stuff, takes his bike, and heads out while Runt stands at the door behind him, making the specific sound dogs make when they feel personally betrayed. At a red light, Cal's attention drifts toward three women in a gray convertible who seem to be casually removing their clothes in the middle of traffic, which, to be fair, is genuinely attention-grabbing. Before he can process what he's looking at, a car full of guys cuts into the space between them. There's Vic, the school's undisputed king of casual cruelty, and his crew, one of them fumbling with a cigarette he clearly doesn't know how to smoke, another one in the back seat being ignored by everyone, including the story. The driver says something to Cal. The light turns green. Everyone moves. At school, one of Vic's crew has found his entertainment for the morning. He places a coin on the ground and waits with the patience of someone who has nowhere better to be. Cal spots it, and against every reasonable instinct, bends down to pick it up. He gets a hard stomp across his back for the effort. The group laughs. A girl named Cecily watches and makes the kind of half-hearted protest that doesn't actually require anyone to stop. Nobody stops. Then comes the test. Cal is sitting there trying to concentrate when Vic's friend settles in right beside him, nudging him steadily, repositioning himself until Cal's paper is angled just right. The teacher clocks it immediately and pulls Cal aside afterward, pressing him to explain why he's letting people copy his work and making it very clear that if Cal doesn't start talking, the failure lands on him too. Cal says nothing and lets it land. Next period, the classroom door opens and Gabriella walks in. Cal immediately abandons whatever he was doing and spends the rest of class sketching her face in the margins of his notebook. When the teacher announces group work, Cal slides himself into Gabriella's group with the smoothness of someone who has rehearsed this moment. He attempts conversation. She gives him almost nothing back. After class, his friend Borgie pulls him aside and delivers the information that should dismantle the entire fantasy. Gabriella is Vic's girlfriend. As if to illustrate the point, they can see Vic across the room handling her with that particular brand of rough affection that isn't really affection at all. Cal watches her laugh at something Vic says and mutters under his breath that she deserves better. He means it completely. In the art studio, Cal's teacher notices a UCLA acceptance letter peeking out from his portfolio and asks about it. He tells her he's holding out for Rhode Island instead. When she steps away, the girl who actually likes him, the one who has been orbiting his oblivious self for longer than is probably good for her, takes her shot and asks about the homecoming dance. Borgie cuts her off before she can finish her sentence. The bell rings and Cal is already gone, leaving Cecily mid-thought in an empty room. He catches up to Gabriella in the hallway and asks about homecoming. She dismisses it with the specific coolness of someone who has decided that nothing conventional is worth attending. As she walks away, he notices her bag is half open and zipped poorly. He slides the sketch he made of her inside, without her noticing, and walks off, like he didn't just do something that could go badly in several different directions. It goes badly, almost immediately. Vic's guys catch up with him around the corner, shoving him hard, accusing him of getting their tests thrown out and getting them banned from the team. He denies snitching. They're not interested in nuance. They ride off on his bike, leaving him standing there, and the thing one of them says as they go hangs in the air like a dare. They just want to talk. Cal decides to follow up on that. He tracks them down at the sports grounds and demands his bike back. They tell him the story differently. Their version involves Cal going to the teacher, the test getting flagged, and now the team is short 2 players during a crucial period. Vic tells him the team's season depends on these guys being eligible to play, and Cal's little act of principle is what's in the way. Cal doesn't move. He doesn't back down, doesn't offer an apology, doesn't soften his position at all. This infuriates them to the point where they grab him, put him in a trash can, and send it rolling down a set of stairs. Cal hits the bottom with the kind of impact that reminds a person exactly how much weight they aren't carrying. He makes it to work late, gets through the shift, comes home, and walks past Runt without making eye contact. Runt protests loudly. Cal eventually comes back outside for playtime, which the dog accepts as partial apology. The next day, a report reaches the principal's office about a student being assaulted by members of the football team. Cal gets called in. Before he can say anything, the coach arrives with Vic, who presents an entirely different narrative. His version is that Cal has been obsessively following Gabriella, and the sketch is the proof. Everyone in that room understands what's happening and why. Cal tells them nothing happened on the football field. The principal tears the drawing, declares the matter closed, and sends both boys on their way. The bruises don't go anywhere, though. Cecily runs into him after and sees the damage on his face. He tells her it was a bike accident, jaw set, tone leaving no room for follow-up. She asks him to homecoming anyway. He uses Gabriella's line back at her without realizing it, saying nobody goes to those things. She corrects him with more patience than he's earned. People go, she tells him. They just don't go to dance. She walks away with her head up. Later that afternoon, they cross paths again somewhere quieter, and the conversation shifts into something more honest. He admits the bruises weren't from a bike. She listens without turning it into a production. He gives her a ride home on the bike he managed to recover, pedaling until he tips them both onto the ground, and they're both laughing about it before they've even stopped sliding. While she steadies herself on his shoulders, he notices her legs are genuinely extraordinary. He asks why she always wears long skirts and long dresses, when she clearly has what most people would consider exceptional legs. She tells him it's just her preference, then adds with complete confidence that she already knows her legs are great. She doesn't need his discovery to confirm it. The next day at school, he hears the coach in the hallway outside a classroom, voice low and pressured, leaning on the teacher who failed his players to reconsider the decision. The implications are clear. These grades matter to more than one person's career. During group work, Gabriella turns to Cal and tells him the drawing was really good. She apologizes for what happened and, with a completely unforced smile, invites him to a party at Vic's house. Just like that, Borgie is beside himself with excitement on Cal's behalf. When Cecily wanders over and tries to be part of the moment, Borgie shuts her down hard, saying something about her family that she doesn't walk away from quietly. She defends herself with a dignity that everyone in earshot notices. Cal doesn't say anything. He holds out on the party. Then Borgie works on him for long enough that, combined with Runt apparently giving his blessing from the couch, he agrees to go. Inside the house, Borgie immediately dissolves into a group of girls and disappears. Cal moves through the rooms with his hands in his pockets, taking everything in, until he spots something that twists his stomach. Vic's teammates, in the corner, snorting something they shouldn't be near. Then Gabriella appears. They fall into easy conversation, actually talking, actually connecting. Then she notices the boys in the corner and drifts toward them, leaving Cal mid-sentence. Downstairs, Cecily slips in quietly and almost immediately runs into Gabriella, who compliments her dress genuinely and looks at her footwear with visible skepticism. Cal eventually finds Cecily and they step into the garden together, just to breathe. It's the worst possible timing. Vic's crew spots them on the way back in and blocks their path with the specific energy of people who have already decided what this evening is going to become. They circle Cal, taunting, escalating, and then shove him into the trunk of a car and bang the lid shut. From inside, he can hear Cecily screaming at them, demanding they let him out. He can hear Vic's voice behind the noise, saying something about payback for the stalking situation, framing this as justice. Gabriella's voice cuts through the chaos, sharp and angry, demanding the boys get themselves together. Cal forces his way out through the back seat, heart going at twice the speed it should. Cecily is too shaken to let anyone near her. She gets into a van and drives away without a word. Cal stands in the driveway watching the taillights disappear, rage moving through him like something looking for a wall to hit. The next morning at school, Borgie tries to get his attention and start a conversation. Cal cuts it off. He says he's done pretending everything is fine, done watching Borgie convince himself that playing along with these people is the same as having a spine. He says it out loud in front of people, with all the accumulated frustration of someone who has been watching a close friend shrink for too long. Borgie stands there and absorbs it. Cal walks away. The days that follow are quiet and tightly controlled. He ducks corners, times his exits, moves through the building like someone tracking multiple threats simultaneously. He balls up a note that Gabriella slips him and drops it in a trash can without reading it. He finds his bike on the ground one afternoon with the chain snapped cleanly through, and Vic's crew drives past at that exact moment to give him a middle finger from a moving vehicle. He swallows the whole thing, drags the bike to work, and arrives to find that arriving late one too many times has finally run out of tolerance. He gets fired on the spot. He comes home and finds his mother asleep in a dark room. He takes her car, puts Runt in the passenger seat, and drives to Vic's place. He tries to flatten a tire. It doesn't work. And then standing in the driveway in the dark, something else occurs to him. Something reckless and irreversible and completely logical in the way that thoughts only feel logical at a certain temperature of anger. He finds a container of petrol. He pours it into the car's trunk. He lights it. The car goes up fast and beautiful and terrible, and he doesn't move fast enough afterward. One of the boys sees him before he's clear of the block. Morning. His mother shuffles in exhausted, hands him a $1 bill for dog food, and moves on. He holds the bill out and tells her quietly that he earns his own money and can handle it. She stops, takes it back, looks at him for one actual second, and thanks him before leaving. It's the most present she's been in a while. He goes to find Cecily at her place. Her father opens the door and closes it in his face without a word. He waits at a spot he knows she uses, but Vic's crew finds him first. His whole body goes onto alert and he runs. He loses them through back routes he knows better than they do, ducks into cover, and waits them out. His next stop is a shop where he buys something to carry. Protection or the beginning of something worse, depending on how you look at it. He goes home without looking over his shoulder more than necessary. That evening, Cecily finds him. He asks her straight out if she plans to go to the police about what happened at the party. She says no. Her situation is complicated, and her father's reaction would turn everything into something she can't manage. Better to keep it contained. Then she tells him the whole school thinks he burned Vic's car, and she shows him the video that's going around. The guilt of it settles on him alongside something else, a quieter, more calculating feeling. He decides the best move is to keep showing up, look normal, give nothing away. School becomes a performance of routine. He times his movements, clears rooms the moment the bell sounds, stays out of lines of sight. Then Borgie finds him and apologizes for not being there when things went sideways. Then, almost as an afterthought, admits he's the one who snapped the bike chain. Cal stares at him for a long moment, processes the sheer audacity of this, smirks with zero warmth, and walks away. Borgie watches him go. Luck runs out by the lockers. The crew corners him in front of an audience of students who stop what they're doing and form the instinctive circle that students form when something like this is about to happen. They come at him together. Cal reaches into his pocket and pulls out brass knuckles. The first punch he throws drops someone to the floor. He kicks the second between the legs. He gets hold of Vic's hand and folds one of his fingers backward until the noise coming out of Vic's mouth is no longer recognizable as anything tough. A teacher appears and Cal is already running. A cluster of students moves to fill the space in front of Vic, not dramatically, just effectively, buying time that matters. On the walk home, a car pulls up alongside him. Different crew, different energy. They've heard about what happened at school, and they're grinning about it. They hail him with a name that sounds like a promotion and offer him a ride. He gets in. They drop him home and invite him out later. He says yes. The arcade that night is loud and warm, and entirely foreign to who Cal usually is. The crew's leader is calm and easy and the kind of person who seems to have weight without working for it. A girl in the group offers him something chemical and social. He turns it down without making it weird. They invite him somewhere else when they're ready to leave. He turns that down too and makes a call instead. Cecily meets him at his place. They sit on the couch and he tells her about Runt, how he found him, what taking care of the dog has meant. The dog himself sits nearby, watching this conversation with the deeply wounded expression of an animal who can smell that his position is being discussed. Cal takes him outside for a while to give them space, then comes back in. They lean into each other on the couch, and the evening settles into something neither of them planned. In the morning, she's still there, moving quietly around his room, looking at his drawings on the walls, genuinely impressed by the quality of them. She lingers a little too long on the ones with Gabriella's face. Cal sees her see it, crosses the room, and tears those particular ones down without ceremony. She finds an unopened envelope from the Rhode Island Art School tucked behind something on his desk and hands it to him. He opens it. The rejection is clean and direct. He looks at it, looks away, and doesn't say anything that suggests it has broken him. She stays. They share a quick, unhurried kiss before she leaves. He calls for Runt. Nothing comes back. He checks around the apartment, then outside, then he sees it. The water bowl near the door has blood smeared across the rim. He searches the area systematically, and when he opens the lid of the trash can near the alley, what he finds makes him take a step backward. Runt's body, discarded. He stays with that for longer than he can account for, and then the grief burns through into something with edges and direction. He walks into school and goes straight to Vic and his crew. He asks them directly why they did it. They look at him with calm, unbothered faces and say they don't know what he's talking about. He watches their expressions for a tell and doesn't find one clean enough to act on, so he starts watching them instead. Following their movements through the day, staying close but unnoticed, waiting with a patience he didn't know he had, Cecily finds him near the lockers and reads his energy immediately. She asks what happened, and when she understands it's about Runt, she wants to know who did it. He tells her he doesn't have proof. Not yet. The school gathers for a pre-match ceremony in the gym. With Vic sidelined from the injury Cal gave his finger, someone needs to hype the room. Vic tries. The crowd gives him polite noise, and then turns its energy toward Cal, who has become, without intending to, the most interesting person in the building. The chanting pulls him toward the center of things. Words start flying between him and the crew, back and forth, getting louder and more specific, and then one of them makes a sound. The sound a small animal makes, in its final moments. Cal feels that sound move through him from the outside in. He leaves. He doesn't run. He just walks out, while the chanting builds behind him. That night, while the game is in full swing and every set of eyes in the school is pointed at a basketball court, Cal moves through a different part of the building entirely, methodical, prepared. He makes a switch, replacing the substance the players intended to use with something else entirely. His movements are clean and practiced, like he has been turning this over in his mind for days, which he has. Halftime in the locker room, the coach tears into his team with the particular ferocity of a man who believes that any problem can be solved by applying enough anger to it. One player tries to apologize. The coach stops him mid-word and says that sorry is the vocabulary of people who lose. He drops every sharp thing he's been holding and walks out. Vic, sitting with his damaged hand, tries to say something. His own teammate cuts him off before the sentence lands. When the two players head back toward the court, they stop to use what they brought. Within minutes, something is very wrong. Their bodies react to whatever Cal switched in, movements stuttering, voices breaking, the controlled environment of a school event suddenly tipping into something that requires emergency response. People start running. Someone calls for help. The players get taken out of the building in the kind of urgency that empties a hallway in seconds. The two remaining crew members look at each other and arrive at the same understanding simultaneously. Cal has been several steps ahead of all of them for longer than any of them noticed. Later, Cal finds Vic alone. The boy who controlled entire corridors is sitting by himself, crying over what happened to his friends. The invincibility stripped away. Cal doesn't soften anything. He stands in front of him and says it all out loud. The dog, the trash can, the party, all of it. He forces Vic to own the consequences of what he put in motion. Something in Vic snaps and he lunges. Cal has been counting on exactly that. He leads him through the building to a spot he selected in advance, and when the moment comes, he swings a bat and puts Vic on the ground hard enough to end the conversation. Vic, face pressed against the floor, voice changed completely, says he didn't mean to kill the dog. He only meant to deal with Cal. Runt attacked first. The explanation comes out in pieces, half apology and half justification. Cal tells him to apologize properly. Vic doesn't. And here's where it gets interesting. The thing Vic refuses to say is the same thing Vic's own coach told that room full of players earlier. Sorry is for people who lose. The lesson ran all the way down. Vic waits for his moment while Cal is still processing the irony of it, and then drives forward, takes him down, and starts putting his fists into Cal, with the desperation of someone who has nothing left to lose. A gunshot cuts through the air. Borgie, standing there breathing hard, convinced he just saved the day, looking like he's been rehearsing this moment his entire life. Cal reads the situation in about half a second. His friend showing up with a weapon is not help. It is a completely new problem. He takes the gun out of Borgie's hand with complete calm, tells him to leave the school grounds immediately and not to stop moving, and means all of it. Borgie leaves. Vic tries to run. He doesn't get far enough. When Cal catches him, the calculations have changed. Vic starts apologizing with a fluency that makes clear he understands what's at stake and will say absolutely anything to reduce it. He promises consequences, accountability, turning himself in, whatever the list requires. Cal looks at him and doesn't believe a single word. He has watched this person operate for long enough to know exactly what happens when the pressure lifts. The dangerous thought settles in quietly and cold. The only guarantee is removal. Cecily appears. She came after him and she talks. Not dramatically, not with speeches, just steadily and directly. She tells him that Vic deserves consequences. Real ones. Lasting ones. But not this. She reaches over, takes the gun, and hands him the bat instead, which is a very specific kind of trust in a very specific kind of person. The bat goes twice. The sound of it is followed by the sound of someone crying in a way they've never had to before. When it's done, they walk away together without looking back. In the quiet afterward, Cal says he'll deal with whatever comes next by himself. Cecily tells him she's not going anywhere. They clean up what they can, and they move. He asks her to homecoming. She says what she always says, that nobody goes to those things. This time, he doesn't argue. He takes her hand and they walk. Sirens starting up somewhere in the distance, close enough to know the night isn't entirely finished, not close enough to change what they're doing. Runt got his justice. The bat found the right hands. But here's the question this whole story leaves sitting in the air. Did Cal go exactly as far as he needed to? Or did he go somewhere he won't be able to come back from? That's not a question with one answer. Drop your take in the comments, because I genuinely want to know where you land on this one. And while you're still here, there are more recaps waiting right in front of you. Click one. I'll see you there.